Welcome to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh, the Note Queen, where we talk about owner financing and notes. Financial solutions, one mom and pop to another.
All right, well, welcome to Virtual Coffee, anything owner financing and notes. My name is Dawn Rickabaugh. I'm your host for the next hour. And of course, but it's you guys that are showing up and participating that make the whole thing. So I appreciate you so very much. Super fun for me to just engage in this conversation. And, you know, even if it just helps one person pull the trigger doing something that they never thought of doing before, and it works out really well, it's super gratifying to me. So anyway, thanks for participating in probably my favorite thing of the whole month. And also my favorite thing of the whole year that we build up to is this 2.5-day summit that I do up on Lake Tahoe the first Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of every year. And so that's coming up in the next 6-7 weeks. So if you haven't already, come over to this page, Property and Paper Summit 2019 on my notequeen.com site and check it out. We have quite the lineup of people. I think since our last call, Gordon Moss, Microseek is coming. Gordon Moss is gracing us with his presence as well. He's a super long time seasoned guy. And actually, I think he's doing a full 2-day class in Las Vegas shortly after our summit. So he's going to be there to talk about what's going on latest and greatest in the non-performing liens segment, which is not my forte. Tom Henderson is adorable. He's coming. I've talked about him before, and that's really the only new thing. So anyway, check that out if you haven't already. So, and looking forward to that. And so with that said, if there's any questions that have been submitted, can you just read those off to me or open up that person if they're here on the line? And we'll just, I can add all the time about my own stuff, but so we can fill in lots of time, but I'd really rather address any questions that anyone has or any situations they want to work over right now. So.
I have a question from Andre. I think that's his name, Andre. He would be interested in the pros and cons notes secured by an investment property versus a primary residence. Let's see if we can unmute him. You there, Andre? Or I think I'm pronouncing
Yes.
There we
go. Can you hear me?
Yes. How do you pronounce your name?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, Andre is the correct way to pronounce it. Yeah. Hi, Don. We have a call scheduled later today. Yeah, but since we are on this session.
Okay. So wait a minute. So you're the one that Svetlana she hooked us up together for a call at 1 o'clock today? Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yes,
fantastic.
She's my wife. Yeah, and so. I would be interested to
So you know
her. Say it again.
So you know her. I'm sorry.
Yes,
yes.
I know her a little bit. So as I said in my question, and again, this is my first time, so I don't know the format of the meeting, but if I can shoot my kind of question. We have a property and we have a buyer which is interested to use this property not as a primary residence but for his home care business, right? And we plan to sell or finance it through a note and then try to sell it on the secondary market, the note itself. So that's why, my question is, how do you treat, the note secured by the investment of business properties versus primary residence? What are the pros and cons of both?
Okay, fantastic. This is a perfect question. I'm really glad you brought this up here because it's a great thing for everyone to hear, I think, instead of just us privately later today. But the thing is, for the primary residence, generally, it's just thought of, you think of it like, okay, someone has a lot of emotional equity. Hopefully they have some real hard equity property, but you also think of primary residences of people like, this is where my kids grow up. We go to church and school here and all these things, right? So there's usually people have a lot of emotional attachment. Therefore, so anyway, So the underwriting for that is usually like, okay, 10% down is good, 20% 10% sound better. That's conventional financing. But for primary residences, people usually think of 10% down is fine. For investment properties, typically you're going to want more of a down payment for an investment property. I would say minimum 20, but the standard, I mean, think of it. Last time, I checked, which isn't granted every day, but 35% down for a commercial property isn't out of the question. So anyway, usually you're going to double the amount of down payment you would require. However, a lot of times, if it is being used for a commercial purpose and the cash flow, it can be treated commercial in such that really it's not the person being underwritten, but the cash flow of the business and the debt coverage ratio, that it has. So in some ways, in my mind, and every note buyer and lender is going to have their own criteria. But from my perspective, if you get a bigger down payment and actually, it's not somebody's W-2 paycheck that could disappear that's paying the loan. It's actually the business that's paying the loan. And it could actually be stronger in my mind than a primary. So what I'd like to, does that answer any question before I ask you something that I think will define the direction of this? So what other questions do you have?
Yeah, the other question for me would be, how the investors who would be interested in buying notes view, the value of such a, note secured by the investment property versus, primary residence in terms of are they afraid of buying, business secured notes? Do they prefer generally primary residence notes? What is the kind of market for all those commercial?
Yeah, so I think that the typical, the widest net that you could cast would be single primary, owner carry notes that people are using by primary residences. But that's not necessarily true. It's always about, it depends. So I want to ask you because in my mind, what's the reason you're doing owner carry in the first place? Just because this particular buyer asked you for that? Or can you mark it up another $200,000, or what are we talking here?
Because we generally feel like we can make more money by seller financing and reselling it, the notes on the secondary market and turn around the properties much faster because we don't have to spend as much money in remodeling the houses and trying to sell it as primary residence.
Okay, so is this like a flip? Is this like a flip that you picked up?
Yeah. We bought a distressed house through a wholesaler and fixed it up a little bit and marking it up right now and trying to seller finance it. Okay, do you mind just putting some real numbers? And I'm not going to ask any identifying information. Right. So it cost us with all the expenses for fixing it about $90,000. And we're selling it.
Okay, $90,000 acquisition and rehab. Am I right?
Right.
Okay, and then
we're selling it for $155.
Okay, so where is this? San Bernardino County or Riverside?
No, it's Midwest. It's in Wisconsin.
Midwest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. All right. So then it just depends. So 155, but what still needs to be done to it? Because as a note buyer, here's what I'm thinking after having been around the block a few times. It's oh God. So if there's a lot of rehab that wasn't done properly and I get this property back, I kid you not, I'll get an appraisal buying the note at one number and it'll drop by $50,000 when I get the property back. Just because then, you know what, they never had the money to finish the rehab. Now it's my headache. So I don't like it. I don't really like it when there's a lot of rehab left to do because that usually creates a nightmare for me down the road. Not always, but you do that a few times, it's not very fun.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's the house is in a pretty decent shape. So if you move in or as a note buyer, if you get it back, you don't have to do anything to, for example, to rent it.
Okay, so it's turnkey. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so then this. Okay, so you've got it marked for 155 after closing costs. You're looking to net what, 30, 40 off of this profit, something like that? 30, 40, 50? Wait,
yeah,
30.
yeah, probably, yeah, 30, 35, 50, 40, yeah, something in that range, yeah.
Okay, so let's just pretend, let's, like, do you actually have the numbers from the buyer? Like, do we know?
Yes,
This is
yes.
price. So
Yeah,
what's the
as I said, he's running a home care business. So,
how good is he? I mean, does he have a track record?
Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know yet. We just in the process of getting all that information. We have an interested buyer. We haven't closed the transaction or haven't started underwriting yet.
Okay, so yeah, because it depends on how good he is at his business. What is this, a 4-bedroom house or something, or what?
It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house.
He's turning that into a home care? That seems pretty small. How interesting.
Yeah. You're right. So, but I don't know much about the buyer yet, so I can't tell you. But
okay, I know that we're just doing a lot of pretend.
Yeah. That area, that's a typical house there. So it's not like it's a small house among the. It's a very typical house in that area.
Okay, let me ask you this: if is it 155? Would a homeowner who can qualify for FHA financing buy it for 155?
Yeah, I mean it's probably about 10K above the market. So if we put it for a typical loan, for a traditional loan, maybe it was 140 to 145.
Okay, let's just take 140. Okay, so if you drop the price to 140, you can probably attract in a regular homeowner that can get a loan, right? So I'm just going to go with that number. I'm just going to compare apples to apples here, just for kicks and giggles, because there's a lot of things it depends, right? What's their experience level? How much down payment are they going to put? What's their credit score? All those things. How much can they afford each month? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I don't mind if they're buying it at a premium, if they put 30% down, they have, above 600 credit. And because the cash flow, with someone that knows that business and can really cash flow things, it's much stronger than actually, one or two W-2 jobs, right?
Right.
Right. There's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, they're willing to put 25,000 as a down payment.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to get this number first. How much will you net? 90% of this closing costs and commissions? What's your net after a sale at 140? Are you going to get 92% of 8% closing costs? Would that be normal?
Yeah, we have not done any sales in Wisconsin, so I don't know all the costs involved. Yeah, but there is no commission. There is no for our transaction. There is no real estate commission.
I'm trying to just compare for you, and I hope this is okay. And if it's bugging you, just tell me. But
no, I usually estimate 7% for closing, 7 to 8% for closing, and.
Okay, so in that case, I'm just going to you can sell it real solid at that, and you're going to net 93% of that. I'm just trying to figure out, at the end of the day, is what you're thinking of doing even something you're going to end up potentially wanting to do. So look, you're going to net 130 minus you're in at 90, minus 90. And so then your net profit in the next 2 to 3 months will be 40,000. Pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Right. So at least we know that. For to be able to compare apples to apples, we need to know what's the FHA boring brain dead option? Because 40,000, like FHA financing could be boring, but $40,000 is not boring, is it?
Right.
Right?
No, it's
So
good.
you don't really want to give that. So at least we know you have that you're looking at. Now let's go back and go. Let's clear this. 25,000 that they have to put down, divided 155, and we know you've created a premium of 10 grand there. So that's a 16% down payment, so that's a little lighter than I would actually like to see, but it's not a no-go. It just really depends, right? So if they put 25K down, like I would really prefer, 35. I'd really prefer 20 or 25% down on a deal like this, especially where you're adding a premium, but the prices are really pretty stable back there, right? So it's not like it's going to drop a lot or raise a lot in value, right?
No, it's a stable market pretty much. But we're also charging closing costs, like 3%, 3 points. Origination fee to the buyer.
Oh, basically. Oh, okay, yeah. So you're charging a fee.
Yeah.
Got you. So basically what you're doing is 155 minus 25. That gives us a loan amount of 130 that goes in our PV here, present value. And you're saying you're charging 3 points as a loan origin.
Right.
So you're going to get your 25K plus another 4K basically. Yeah. So you're getting 29.
Yeah, but those origination fees will go to pay legal fees and all those expenses. So we may not see a lot of it.
Oh, but that's fine. Then it's just subsidizing your closing costs, though. So that's good.
Right.
Right. I mean.
Right.
Okay. So let's just get to it. Let's do a let's pretend sort of a thing. So the best case scenario, you got 130. What is the most? What would this property just rent for? I also kind of want to have that, like just a regular person, family. What would the rent be?
$1,100 to $1,200, and that's how we're trying to sell it for. Like in terms of how much the buyer through the seller finance would have to pay monthly. That's kind of his idea and our idea. So we're trying to be around the same number as if it was rented.
That's great. And if this person or these people who want to run this home care, if they're good at what they do, they should be getting double the cash flow of a regular rent. So they should be fine. So I would ask them, can they afford more? But in this case, do you want me to assume that they can only afford $1,200 for P&I, principal and interest?
Right. That's our number. Yeah, we are basing our calculations on that number, $1,200 a month. And that's how we came up with all the down payments and interest on the note.
Okay, so what's the interest you've agreed to or thinking about agreeing to?
I believe it was 10.5%.
And is that in Wisconsin? There's no usury with that number?
No, it's a fine number there.
Okay. So basically,
usually I think starts much higher. Yeah. So.
Okay, so yeah, so basically you're looking at a 360 note, right? So if I don't know, can you see the computer? Can you see my calculator, Andre?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So when I'm just plugging this around 130 loan amount.
That's a number. Yeah, that's the number I got too. Yeah, that's
okay. That's right. So then. What is, because this deal, I can already tell that the biggest thing is going to be their credit score. And if they're willing to pay 10.5, I'm guessing their credit score is not very good. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I mean, do you know?
I honestly, I don't know, because again, we just send them a loan application, so we're waiting for them to give us all their background and information, both on
Right.
business and on their personal finances, so including the credit score. We have no idea right now. But in terms of the note, 360, you mean like it's 3,000? I mean, 30-year note amortization. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. So this what I see here is 30.
I think we did like a 20-year note with 5-year balloon.
Okay, so if we did it based on a 20, then their payment is closer to 1,300 then.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So that if they can afford it, that's great. But it all comes down to affordability, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if it's a business purpose, if it's not their primary residence, I guess it might fall into technically a little bit different category. But you have to know that you have to make it a win-win, and they have to prove the ability to pay. Right. Sure. You're going to want to run this and make sure that they can pay. Business purpose might be a little more generous, but just so you or someone else down the road doesn't end up with a headache, and the borrowers don't lose their 25 grand. We don't want that either. So, so we just got to set up a win-win. So if you do base it on a 20, it might be pinching them. It wouldn't hurt the value of your note to keep it at 360 and put in, and we'll still put in that 5-year balloon. But for the purpose of me, and if you don't do a ton of them, I'm pretty sure you can slide. I think you can do 3 or 5 a year without really worrying about the Dodd-Frank loan originator sort of stuff. But I'm only the note queen. You gotta. No, I'm not an attorney, tax advisor, anything like that, right? So this is just my opinion for entertainment.
We were told by a legal counsel that because the note will be in a business name, we don't need to give all those Dodd-Frank disclosures and loan origination.
But I would do it anyway. But even so, your business can't do more than 3 or 5 in a year in most states without kind of triggering some potential liability there. But let's don't worry about that right now, because if it's a win-win and they can really afford it, and then it's a good deal, right? So it's fair. But I would still do the underwriting if you don't have to. Just
no, we would definitely. We would do everything we need to do to qualify them for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so basically, what you're looking at here is if the credit's good. So if the credit's good, probably they're going to make you maybe let's say a larger institutional buyer who a lot of times they can pay more because their cost of funds is a lot lower. Like for me, if I have to borrow money from my investing partners at 7, 8, 9, 10%, depending on the type of deal we're doing, then obviously I have to make more than that, right? So, but if these larger institutions are leveraging 1, 2, and 3% money, they can buy it 6, 7, 8, 9%, and if they like it, and usually it comes down to the value of the collateral. And really heavily driven by credit score. So if they come in with an above 700 credit score, I don't know for sure, but I could feature that they might pay, maybe they'll make you accept 2 to 3 payments. So then they're buying, so recall 60, they might make you season it, accept the next 2 to 3 payments to make sure that they're paying on time. It's not a first payment default or something. So they'll buy 57 payments. Let's just for kicks and giggles say they'll give you. Let's see. Then what would the balance be at that time? If that's that 57 payments, the balance would be 129. And let's just pretend they'll give you 90 cents. This is based on a 700 plus credit score. And personal guarantees and all that if they're in an entity. But so you could, So let's pretend, right? So and then you got 25,000 down. Okay, now Now basically you sold it for 141 minus the 90. You're in it. And in this case, no, a lot fewer, a lot less. So now you should have some closing costs. I didn't figure that in, but if you do the owner carry, it's a lot less, right? So basically now you're looking at closer to a $50,000 profit versus the 40. It's only $10,000 more, and there's a lot of what ifs. Mm-hmm. So you got to go, is it, the stars have to line up for you to make this extra 10 grand in profit, whereas you could just go for the known 40, because if I'm buying it, here's where I'm going to be limited right now. So I'm going to tell you, regardless of anything else, me as a private mom and pop investor, not a large institution leveraging, 3% money, that's not me. So I have to be a lot more conservative, and I have to buy at higher yields, but I'm going to be limited by the value of the property. So I'm going to go, that's the real 145 is the real value of your property. And I'm probably, the most I can risk against this property is 65%. I'm not bringing any more than 94,000 to the table. So you can get out your seed capital and cover the closing costs, but you have to keep the remainder interest in that note. You know what I'm saying? So, so basically that would be, I'd be buying a partial. I wouldn't be buying the whole note. I'd be buying a partial. So you'd have to go, do I want 40,000 or maybe 50,000 if the stars line up? Mm-hmm. Do I want that 40,000, or am I good with cash and I just want to build retirement income? And so you're going to keep the remainder payments in that note. And let's just look what that would be like. If I could pay that, and I wonder how much I'd need. Let's just, I don't know. So much. I don't know that it's worth it there. That 125, that's 25, another 20. Yeah, you'll make 50 grand. You'll make 50 grand on the backside when the balloon pays off, if it pays off. Right. But if we have to fully amortizing it or it goes into default, that 50 grand on the backside might disappear. So you could, if I bought a partial from you and you don't need the money now, you want it later for tax purposes, for retirement income, then fine, you can do the owner carry and sell out a front end partial to a mom and pop all day long. Or if you're lucky and all the stars line up, you might create the note and sell it for what you want and maybe get 50, but all day long without wasting any time, you can get 40 just going FHA. So it just depends. Does that help clarify? And we can talk more. We'll go into this at depth, at 1:00 today. Right. If there's any other questions or clarifications, but this is, I think we'll end this for the purposes of the public demonstration. Yeah. It starts you thinking of like, it sounds like a great idea. Mm-hmm. Is it really though? You do so, right? So is that help a little bit, just sort of set the table for what we'll dig into later today?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. This is a fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I really. So we'll talk later, and fantastic. Okay. So what else? What else do we have, Axel? Who else is here?
I had a question from Nomi earlier.
Can you hear me this time?
There we go.
Oh,
there
yeah.
We go, Nomi.
Hi. It took me a minute to figure out how to hook up my microphone. How you doing, Don? Good?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Well, my question was basically about, I keep getting asked to do loans on condos, and I keep saying no, but my question was, if I escrowed the homeowner's fees, or if I put something in the note or something, is there a way to protect me as a lender with a condo?
Okay, so let me ask you this, just as a backup question. Are these, who's asking you to finance? Is this like an investor? Excuse me, or a homeowner?
No, consumer loans. Yeah.
Okay, yikes! I would run screaming right now. I won't do that.
Okay, why?
Because of the the Dodd-Frank and all the lending laws, it's just too dicey. They've made it that
I'm doing owner finance. You know, that's my business model. So I do this all the time. I use an RMLO.
Okay. All right. So you're the lender from an owner carry perspective, not someone just asking you to borrow money.
Right. No, I would buy the condo and sell the condo. So I would be a principal in it and it would be a seller finance.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Okay. Sorry about that. Because
what I worry about is that the homeowners associations can take priority over first lien. And that's what I'm trying to protect. If there's a way to protect myself.
Well, to me, it just goes back to standard underwriting. The bigger the down payment, the more they can afford each month, and the better their credit score, the safer you are with that. Because I don't personally know of here's this one little trick and you can absolve yourself of most of the risk. It really comes down to the basic underwriting. So in a condo situation, here's what I would do. It's like, okay, maybe I would do 65, 75%, depending on the state, right? Foreclosure laws, default scenarios, and things like that. Maybe 65, 70% as a loan. A single family, but you add in condo where the values can be, they can move faster. They can lose value faster in a down market. And then you add the extra things of FHA. I would just be willing to do less. I would require a larger down payment. Or if I was making an investor loan, I would take my max loan to value down to 60% or less. Whereas I might do more. So I would just require strong credit. But if they can get strong credit, then if they have strong credit, why can't they do FHA? Now, there's a lot of people, as you know, Naomi, that they're self-employed. They're very qualified buyers, but they can't get a loan. So you just want to make sure that the reason they can't get a loan is the right reason for your safety. Yeah.
But that would be the same advice you'd give on a single family. But what about the fact that if they didn't pay their homeowners insurance, their homeowners fees, HOA fees, that the HOA actually has priority over first lien and can foreclose on them? That's where I started to worry about it.
Well, so that just reminds me of like my mobile home deals that are in parks. Space rent is first priority lien. So number one, I require a big down payment. And because I know I have more risk, I require a big down payment. I want a fast amortization. I charge higher interest rate. So because I know that if it goes bad, I'm on the hook for that monthly fee. And so I got to be compensated for that risk. And so do you. So that's the thing. It's like, you just have to write this deal. Do you mind if we put real numbers to it? Can we just do a real numbers for a scenario? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So give me a real deal.
Okay. Well, I was looking at one. I actually have been saying no. So the answer was no. But the last deal I was looking at was a condo for $145 in Texas.
Is this your acquisition? Is this at your acquisition cost?
It would have been. It would have been my sales cost.
Okay, what's your
acquisition cost? My acquisition cost was going to be around $100,000, like just under, like 98.
Okay, Naomi, is that acquisition? Is that include any rehab as well?
No, there was no rehab needed.
Okay, so we're all in at $100K. You're good.
Yes.
Okay,
and you were going to for $145.
Okay, great. So and where is it?
Texas.
Okay, so far so good. What's HOA, just for kicks and giggles?
It was about $375.
Okay, yeah, it's not small. All right, so let's just do all this clear all. Okay. So 145.
They had 20,000 down.
Okay, that's really good because that is, what is that? That is for an owner occ, right? Yeah, it's better than 10%, so we're good. So minus 20,000, and we don't know their credit score quite, right? But we'd find out it would be really, really good if they had decent credit, like above like you can squeak down into 600s, but like nothing below 650, I would hope, or 620, something like that. Just because it reduces your options down the road or whatever,
Right.
but you really have to check that out. Of course, your RMLO does that for you, I'm sure.
Right.
All right. So here, and is this 100,000? Is this your money, or are you leveraging that from a party?
I will be, but right now it's mine. And then what I'll do is I'll probably sell a partial of it.
Gotcha. All right. So at least I don't have to worry about really expensive and impatient hard money. It's your money. You're not, you don't have any cost of capital except your opportunity cost, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Right. Perfect. Okay. I like this. All right. So here 125 goes into PV, present value. And then what can they afford? What's the all-in, what someone can afford to live in that place? And this has got to be TI and HOA. What is that number? What's the max someone could actually afford?
Well, the normal, like if you look at the normal rent, the normal rent in the area for a place that size would be around 1,200.
Okay,
and,
so then.
So with PITI, it goes over, but not, it goes over by a couple hundred, I think.
Okay, so for someone who is putting 20,000 down, I'm guessing they can pay a little more than rent for ownership. I'm going to pretend at least they can afford this 1,400. Is that reasonable?
Yes, I do believe so. Yes.
And then so then we have to take out HOA. And how much is prorated T&I, taxes and insurance each month?
I estimated it being around under 400. It was like 475, I think.
375?
No, I think it was higher because the property taxes here are pretty high.
Oh yeah, Texas. Oh yeah. Okay.
That's why they call it taxes.
Taxes in Texas are pretty nasty. They got big everything, including big property taxes. Oh, but you know what? They should have if they're homesteading, they should get a better rate than you do.
Yeah, and right? I think they would. I didn't.
But okay, I'm just
get those calculations, but yeah, they would get that.
Because if that's true, if between HOA and that's a big chunk between HOA and taxes and insurance, they only have 600. Even if they can afford easily 1,400 a month, they've only got 625 to apply to P&I. So anyway, that's just what we're working at, right? So we need to say, is this a good enough deal or not? So, but that's where we're at, right? So, right. And then I was thinking with the condo note, I don't know. I'm just going to throw out 15 years is better than longer.
Oh, okay.
Nope, that's not.
I was calculating on 30.
All right.
Well, what's your thinking on that? Why would you do shorter?
Things that don't hold their value as well. I like to go shorter, but in your case, if you're leveraging, you already know you're selling off a front end partial as your strategy. It probably doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or it probably doesn't matter. But look, this is if they can only afford 625 P&I, the loan amount's 125. You're going to fully am over 30 years. The interest rate, you can't, that comps out to an interest rate of, not even 4.5%, which is really low for right?
Yeah.
But let's just, so then here it comes into your cost of capital. What, if you brought in a party to buy out, how much, what are your capital partners needing?
Well, what I usually do is they usually want to be in for 5 years at 8%, and I usually charge around 9.5% interest for 30 years.
Okay, so
then I just calculate what the principal is based on.
That they're going to have to be able to afford closer to $1,900 a month to make that work.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Which is a little high.
So it just depends on what they can afford. Otherwise, if you have to have either cheaper cost of capital or you have to get this at a lower price. You have to knock off 10, 20 grand. Okay. But here's the deal. You're all in it. Let's just, for kicks and giggles, I want to take this back to I just want to get this number. Hold on a second. So that's the number. Let's pretend that that's really what you decided to do because you inherited this property or something.
Okay.
But really, you sold it for 145, but you only have 100 grand in it, right?
Yes.
So you did inherit. The inherited thing didn't make sense. So forgive me. I do a lot of stupid things like lies and so silly things. Okay, so basically 100,000 is what you have in it, and minus, what'd you say, the 20,000 they have.
Yeah.
So really, for this 125 note, it looks like, oh my God, how could you only make 4.39% on your money? But really, in essence, if you just decided to let this ride, because really your true number is you only have $80,000 left in this deal. So this cash flow represents more like closer to a 9% yield for you. So if you were just looking to long-term invest your own retirement funds, this is absolutely a solid deal you can do.
Okay.
Right. So,
right.
But if you're selling off, so really this is what you're making, even though the face rate on that note is less than 4.5, you're making above 8.5 on it. So if you got someone that'll take 8 and you're just trying to get your 80 grand back, well, it doesn't leave any profit for you. It's not juicy enough yet. It's just not juicy enough. You got to get a better price, or your cost of capital has to be like 5 or 6%. Somebody's like, oh, I'll take it out of my money market, or something to give it to you for 6%. So yeah. Or the buyer has to be able to truly afford a much higher payment. But it seems like the HOA with those nasty taxes over there, and if we're wrong on those numbers, but we've calculated like $800 just for taxes, insurance, and HOA, which is ginormous.
I know.
That's a big bite right there. So Texas is great in terms of it's fast to evict or foreclose, but man, their taxes really make it tough for investors to turn a buck there.
I mean, for residents, it's okay because they don't pay income taxes, so it all evens out. But for an investor,
yeah, but for an investor, it's a little tough. So that's where I think maybe the buyers can afford more, but that makes sense. Kind of where the conversation distills down to.
Yeah, it does, and maybe they could come up with a little higher down payment. Maybe I could drive the price down a little lower, and just build in a little more margin.
Yeah, however you need to make it juicier, because this is okay for a mom and pop deal. This is not okay for you as an active rainmaker investor type.
Right, I get it. Okay, good information.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Hey, fantastic! Thank you so much for coming on and bringing that. I love these scenarios. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Don.
All right, thanks. Okie dokie. It's like 10:46 a.m. Pacific time. We got 15 minutes. What should we do? Who else wants to talk, or has anything else been chatted or emailed in?
Kenesha, you're welcome to unmute yourself. You sent in a hot seat application. If you're in a good spot, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Kenesha, hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I definitely can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm at the dentist's office with my son. So I wanted to ask you, okay, what would you suggest, or how would you suggest going about building a buyer's list and a seller's list for seller finance? I am, trying to find my way of taking action in this space. I've been at it for some time. But I think that for me, performing notes are my way to go, just based on my scenario. And I've also been really studying how to buy them and then sell partials. So, but I know that I need buyers and I need sellers. So, how do I go about getting both? What would you suggest?
So
like direct mail campaign for?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you're like, hey, I want to get at notes before they're created.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. So,
Yes.
and that's and my I did that a lot in the early days. That's why when I I've been through this thought process. So let's talk about this some more, and anyone else who has input on this would be great to have theirs too. So like all these ideas are fantastic, except for like, how do you freaking get the leads? Because it's you can work with the calculator and you can know it backwards and forwards, but unless you got leads coming in, doesn't do you any good, right? It's all just academic. So how do we turn a buck? How do we make money? How do we solve problems? How do we, feel good about what we're doing?
For the next
Right?
5 years of high school, I got one going. You know what I mean? Like I got high school to pay for. So how do I do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there any way you can get in a teeny bit quieter background there? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna mute myself, so I'll listen to you. I'll unmute
oh,
as you ask questions, but I'll mute so you can hear because it is noisy.
okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. So basically, when it comes to sellers, like people that are going to sell, there are people, and I think there used to be a site. I'm going to even see if it's even there still. In the old days, it used to be, what was it? Owner financing list. I can't even remember what it was called. Seller bag quick list source. Seller carry back quick list. So you've got people that will on purpose, openlistings.com, owner financing, how to find owner financed homes. I'm just Googling here. So maybe there's just Google might be better, because I haven't actually Googled this in a long time. Internet Exchange, thebalance.com, home guides. Wow, they're not, the old site I used to know isn't even ranking anymore. I can't even remember what it was, but there are a few sites where sellers actually know right up front that they will offer seller financing. And I mean, for one thing, I'm always in Craigslist as just a super simple thing that anyone can do anywhere. Is I'll just go create a search of terms for seller financing, owner financing, seller carryback, so that anytime that anybody is listing a property for sale in my market, and it mentions seller financing or promissory note, I search for promissory note as well. Put in all those search terms. So, right. So I know that there's some where they actually actively offer owner financing. By and large, most of the time, those are investors. The ones that are on purpose offering owner finance, mostly they're investors, they're sophisticated, real estate people. This is not usually your mom and pops, where the ones that are just, they need to get out of it. They owe too much. They, I don't know, they inherited it. It's a bad fixer-upper. It's a probate, something like that. I don't know. So usually the ones where you'll get the best prices do not know that they will even entertain it, owner financing, until you present them with an offer. So to go, I wish I could get a list of all the people that would potentially accept an offer. Like I've gotten owner financing because in the last 3 years, been adding to our portfolio, our long-term portfolio here. And 4 out of 5 of those properties, five out of 6 of those properties I got with owner financing, and they didn't advertise it, and they didn't know that they would accept it until I brought it up. So in terms of just figuring who's the sellers that will do it, yeah, you got sellers that'll offer owner financing, but they're investors and they know what kind of return they want, and you're not going to get the best deal by and large. And if they're offering owner financing, they want to carry the paper. That's part of their retirement strategy, as it should be for everyone. I think, holding notes, properties and notes is a great way to have something to have in your portfolio, right? So, but the best owner financing for sellers is just going, what properties do I want, and start making offers and seeing what sticks. But I'll tell you what, anyone who does on purpose or by accident carry paper, you can bet that right in the first month of their deed of trust or their mortgage hitting the market, they're going to get anywhere from 6 to 10 letters or postcards from people wanting to buy their note. So a lot of times, if you have access to the MLS, you can go, well, you'll find out before it hits county records and gets on everybody's radar, right? So you might want to look, you might want to just go, you'll find out, talk to the realtors. Hey, I just see that, you closed this with owner financing. Do you mind, did they carry paper on purpose, or do you think they'd like to talk about cashing it out? Then you might get ahead of the curve a little bit, and then you also created a relationship with that realtor, right, who could be repeat business.
That's a good idea, because I'm still originating. So that's awesome.
Right. So that's something that when I grow up, I'm actually going to put into practice. I've thought about it, but really never done it. But so my way of leads has always been create content, be an educator, and I create strategic alliances with other people. So I know I'm good at certain things and I'm not good at other things, and so I create alliances where other people that are great at lead gen. I'm not necessarily a whiz at my own lead gen, so that's why I have partners and why I pay wholesale fees on notes and properties. It's like other people can be better at that. I just don't put my effort in that arena. I put my effort into, just learning how to do the deal, how to put it together, the investment capital, that side of it is where I'm really good. So now buyers lists, on the other hand, could be a lot easier to put together because, you can advertise. You can just say, hey, I potentially have, it depends on what market you're kind of going for, right? The buyers, you have to sort of be a little more local, it seems like. Because then you can go, well, let me try to find you an owner finance deal, and you can make offers like that. Be a wholesaler minded person saying, look, you can create ads or things like that, or build a landing page where people will give you their info. And of course, you're going to only want the ones that have a really strong down payment. And you got to qualify them. Otherwise, it's a big waste of time. But if you got someone, let's say in the market that you choose, it's $250,000 medium price home or something. I don't know, or 300. You got to know they at least got 30 down, or it's not even worth your time, right? So, but if you create an ad that it's like that, well, I don't know about all the rules on the various things, but you can say, I've got this sort of a property looking. You can create things on Zillow or Craigslist, or there's probably, I don't know that I would spend marketing dollars like mailer. I wouldn't do that. That would be really expensive.
To be honest, I forgot. That's a really resource. I said I forgot all about Craigslist. It's a great resource.
I've bought notes and properties off of Craigslist. Some people, come to my meetings. I have the monthly meeting here in Carson City, and how do you find deals and how do you find notes? And it's like, it's not a high volume, right? It's like I've bought a handful of notes off of Craigslist, or people that found them on Craigslist and brought them to me. But I'm the first one to the table in my market, because as soon as anyone posts promissory note for sale, trust deed for sale in my market, I can be at the gym, anywhere I can be, and I'll get that, I'll get that ping, and boom, I called them, and I'm the best buyer for that note because I'm local, and especially if it's a non-conforming sort of property, that it's the marketing part of it is always the tough part. This business is not like different than building any other business or getting a degree in some other profession. I personally have had to spend many years and many tens of thousands of dollars to get where I am. And so I can say that I basically paid the equivalent of a Harvard, college degree or whatever to get here. But it's been totally worth it. And I learn every time a new deal comes along or a new experience comes along. I'm constantly learning, constantly changing. So you got to look at it. It's a long-term process. And either if you don't love it, just forget about it. You got to find something you really love. And Kanisha, you and I have talked about this a lot, but I'm saying to other people who are listening, you've got to really, since building a whole new business from ground up or learning to invest in a whole new way that you've never done, it is a lifelong process, and you have to be super committed to it, and you have to love it, because there's money and abundance to be made in all sorts of ways. So you got to find the thing that's really in line with what you really love. But you just got to know that you just got to keep going after it. But I have always been a fan. My style has not to spend $5 to $10 grand a month on direct mail, because you have so much competition right now, especially. And it's like, man, that's just not my style. But so what my style has been is to position myself in a way and put a lot of effort into the things you see me do, these calls, my meetups, my events, the blogging I did for years in the early days, podcasts, things like that, to just create strategic alliances and people that know me, trotting around speaking. I went to tons and tons of conferences and events, over the years. I do a little less of that now, but anyhow, but I hope that's a few ideas before we wrap up the day.
You reminded me of Craigslist. Like, it just totally, I have gotten so many other things off of Craigslist that just, I don't even know why I didn't think of it, but thank you very much. I'm going to utilize that. It is a great resource, actually, to even get started. It really is.
It is just get used to following up on some things. There was one guy, I haven't heard from him in a few months actually, but I swear to God, he was, during a 2-year period, he probably brought me more deals than anyone else. And it seemed like almost all the time he dug them up on Craigslist. Across the country. But
wow.
He was a real hustler, street smart guy, and he was super good at creating rapport with people. And he just hustled his butt off. He had to work hard for sometimes really slim margins. But he did for 2 years. He made a lot of money bringing me deals, and I made a decent amount of money, and I learned a lot because some of those kind of went bad. So, or not bad, but less than I had hoped, So he got education, I got him, but we did a deal there. But well, thank you for that. Always great to hear from you, Kanisha. And
do you still have the calculator practice?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just this call every month now. That's a little bit of our calculator practice. So, but yeah, everything is free now. Everything is free except just coming to the event, because that's expensive for me to put on. So I about break even, maybe a teeny bit more, running that event in Lake Tahoe. But I really love the experience, and because of the reason I do it is just building community, and then I get to bring in people that I want to hear. I don't have to travel as much. I bring people in to speak and teach me. Instead of me going there, I bring them to me. But anyway, you build your relationships with people who can bring you deals, and your investing partners, your financial partners. So that's why I do that event. But other than that, it's just I like buying notes. I like solving problems, and once in a while doing some consulting. Every now and then, when somebody really feels like that would be helpful. So anyway, all right. Well, we're at the. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, Kanisha. And thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. And I want to remind you to use your powers for good and go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh. For more, please visit notequeen.com.
so there was a lot of questions about wraps and things that came up yesterday, and we talked a lot about it today. Maybe you've already got your mind clear about it, but to me, like, I love my little animations, right? So we're gonna do 5 minutes, right? So in case, so just keeping in with my theme, because here's the deal. It's the thing is, to me, I want to inspire you. As a mom and pop, each of us can only do so many deals. It's not like, oh, I have a $5 million or $10 million or $100 million fund, and I'm such a big player, and I need to do all these things. For me, the time is not for. This is just me, okay? The time is for the grassroots resistance, okay? It's people that are inspired with these ideas and this vision to do what we're doing in our local markets, in their local markets. It's not for me, to be like, oh, look at what I'm doing and give me all your money. Now, Walter wants all your money. Go give it to him. No, I'm just saying that the point is that the time of the big central planning and all of that, to me, it's over. It's not what we need. What we need is individuals in their communities armed with these kind of tools to create solutions, just one mom and pop to another. So yeah, I mean, I have my financial partners, and I'm going to say, I don't need your money. I mean, I'm going to plan a lot of scaling, because if I can't get better at sourcing good deals in my area, I'm limited in the amount of solutions I can create. So I'm going to spend the rest of this year, after this conference, I'm not going anywhere, except for my wife needs me to go to her art thing in Atlanta. But after that, I'm cleaning up house, and then I'm going to hit it in 2018 and go, I'm going to rock it in my market. I'm going to be one of the biggest, best retail property buyers, because what can I do? If only 50% of those, well, maybe I need to make money, right? I can flip them, I can buy them, hold them, with these things that Al's telling us. But if I can take half of these that I'm getting at 65, 70 ARV and turn them around with owner financing, I can't do it if I have to pay 90 cents. But if I can turn them around with owner financing, and then if I can infect other people with this virus, with this thought form virus, you see how one person at a time, one deal at a time, we can change this thing? And please wake up. Okay, I'm talking to you, Drew. You know what?
Wing this pig at him.
Where's the flying pig? Okay, the thing is, sometimes, is it comfortable to look in the mirror when you get to come to Jesus? Is it fun to look at the shadow? Oh. Anyway, I'm just saying, sometimes it's not really comfortable or fun to look at what's the reality of some of the situations that aren't really bright and sparkly. But to me, everyone waking up to what's the reality of where we are, and then really visioneering where we want to go and what we can each do about it. I can't solve the whole thing, but being aware of it, consciousness itself, light itself, has its own healing built into it. So don't be afraid to look at the shadow in your own life, the shadow in our culture, the shadow in our financial system. It can make you mad as hell. It can frustrate you. It can be downright depressing. So let it go through. Negative, negative, negative. Just like when you eat a bad meal, you might have food poisoning. It will go out. I don't have any pictures for that. Did you want some visuals for that?
Bubbling in the motorhome.
I'm just saying, if I had a thought of it, I would have, Star Wars, and I would have Darth Vader and the Death Star, and I would have the Resistance, and your little orange suit, and your thing, and your little star, whatever you. We're part of the resistance. It's grassroots. It's not going to be some big, sexy hedge fund. It's not. That's over. My mind is we need grassroots people armed with these tools, one at a time, making solutions. So they take out this person. There's still 90 other people. They can't take. I don't know.
That's just me. So now let's just get back to fun little animations. Okay. So I was trying to think of how is it easy to understand the wrap, and this is a deal I did actually 10 years ago. One of the first deals I did as a little baby note queen, which I didn't even tell you how I got that. It's not even my fault. But anyway, so I bought property with owner financing. So remember our little sacred geometry thing? Here's where I am. I'm a property buyer. Remember, I want you to be able to step on each one of these and make money. Of course, you don't have to be a broker or whatever. All right. This is a fair market value of $135, Bakersfield, California. I went in. I said I'm going to pay $100,000. This was someone that I'd helped the company I was working with. We flipped one of her duplexes, and she was happy with the price. She was not happy with the capital gains. So she came back to me and said, Dawn, I want to sell you another property. So I went, drove up there, 2 hours. Didn't know what to offer. Didn't have my guy friends with me. I was like, I'm going to take this one down myself. So I walked around the neighborhood. I just made up something that I hoped was right. And I said, I'll pay you $100,000. Here it is, though. Remember those nasty capital gains? I don't want you to have to do that again. She goes, yeah, I don't want to pay those capital gains either. So I said, I'm only going to give you $5,000 down. So that's a teeny weeny little down payment. And that worked for me because why? I had no money. But it's great because you're not going to pay many capital gains on that down payment this year. So the note amount was big compared to the down payment. The security interest, right? I owe her. That collateral is in bondage to that lady that sold me the property. The interest rate was 5%. Is that great for me as an owner carry? Yeah. And $360. That sounds a lot like a bank loan. And the monthly payment was $509.98. She was super happy with that because her tenant had been a pain in the ass, and all she was ever asking is $500 a month. And they paid 6 months out of 12. Okay, so is this a good for her? She just needs retirement income. No capital gains, retirement income. So, now do I want to have a rental? Knowing me, well, maybe I would now. But that's 2 hours away. Do I want a rental? And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Or do I want to maybe sell that property on a wrap, do you think? Would I rather be a lender or a landlord long distance? So basically now I got it under contract, started advertising it. And that put me over here, right? So I'm moving pretty effortlessly along this. 2 weeks later, I go up. I didn't want to drive up a bunch of times, so I said, I'm only going to be there between 10 and 12 on this certain day. Be there if you're interested. So I sold it for $122,000. You can see it's a little bit, it's more. I bought it for $100, so I sold it for more. That's pretty good. If I had to wholesale this deal with somebody, what's a good wholesale fee? What's the most you think I could have made?
5, probably.
5 is a pretty good number. 5 to 10. Okay? I got a $20,000 down payment from someone. That's bigger than what I paid down. Can you see how this wrap thing sort of works visually? And I felt good about it because this is a lady who was never going to get a bank loan, and she desperately wanted a rental property that I think she was going to live in it for a while because it was next to her daughter and grandkids. She was never going to get a loan. So that note amount's bigger, right? So it was not like the loan that I had to the seller went away. It's just that it was bigger what the borrower owed me. So I very quickly went down into this category, right? Now I'm a passive investor. I'm an owner will carry seller, property seller. Interest rate was 7.5. Does that sound bigger than what? So that's called spread. That's called arbitrage. I also had arbitrage on the price, arbitrage on the interest rate. What do you talk to me about the term? What did I have before? What do I owe the lady who just needs income till she dies? And then I built in what? Okay, it's amortized over 360 months, but it's due in 10 years. Because I want the option to renegotiate this. Okay? But would I sell it to her on a, if I have to owe the lady 360, would I sell this on a 240? No, I want to match. I got to match the underlying financing, at least make sure I'm covered every bit of the way. So that monthly payment, $713.20. Pretty simple, right? So let's just talk about the cash in my pocket from this little deal before I knew what the hell I was doing. $15,000, right? $20,000 down for my new buyer. 2 weeks before, I'd given out $5,000, so net in my pocket is $15,000. My, go ahead.
Wasn't the answer to the last slide no, though? Isn't this where you would do like the partial if you could payment?
Say that again louder.
Isn't this where you would split the last slide into a partial or do 2 notes on it and then you could have one be the infinite?
Why would the 2-note, great question, thank you. Why would the 2-note model that we just heard in eloquence not work for this?
Because you owe the money.
I don't have hardly any damn equity. What's the note? 95. I have $7,000 of equity built into this deal. Well, that I have yet to realize, right? I got the 15,000, but left in the deal is only 7. I have nothing to sell. My seller really is owed most of the money here, right? But I have the spread between 700 and 500. So for the next 10 years, and this is actually how pretty close it worked out. There's some details, but let's just say 203 times 120, another 24,000. What's that? $40,000 instead of a 5 to 10 wholesaling fee, just because I'm willing to take a spin. Not really sure, just like I'm gonna just give it a spin. Right? You learn a lot more doing it than listening, even though this is awesome, right? And then we're not done. Remember that amortization difference? At the end of 10 years, I got another 11,000 coming because do you think a 5% loan amortizes more quickly than a 7.5? Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're paying down the loan and hers is going faster. This is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
$100,000 property? I'm going to make $50,000 on a $100,000 property? And I never had to pay taxes, insurance, or do any repair? Isn't that ridiculous? Was the seller who sold me the property happy? Yeah. She had a bad problem. She needs hassle-free income for retirement. She's only getting 6 payments out of 12 from her tenant. She has all the taxes, all the insurance, all the repairs. Now she gets $500 a month, no matter what. Do you think, even if my payment stopped coming in, do you think I'm going to let her suffer?
No.
Do you think I'm going to quit paying her?
No.
What if the property even dropped from 135 to 65? Now I'm underwater. Do you think I'm going to stiff that old lady that sold me this property? Hell no. Right? It's not financially good, and it's not morally right. Because I know how to solve this problem. She trusted me, taking a little 5% down. There's no way, unless something really bad happens in my life, that I'm going to stiff her, right? So here's how it works out. 10 years are up this year. So, and I was telling them, you guys refinancing? Are you thinking of selling? Whatever. And I've been pretty, like, whatever about it, right? I don't really need it, but I'm like, this is either an opportunity for them to give the property back, for me to negotiate a different interest rate, whatever. And they go, well, we really want to refinance because we think we can do better. And about 5 months later, I said, how's that refi going? Well, we're not going to be able to get it. I go, well, do you want to just change your payment amount or anything like that? No, we'd actually like to give you the property back. Wow. I go, really? And I'm like, it's in now I'm even farther from Bakersfield. Now that's a 6 or 7 hour drive instead of a 2-hour drive, right? But what is that a super bad thing for me? How much money do I have in this deal? Remember from day one, I got paid $15,000 to close. I have 0 in this deal, except I do have a promise and a karmic connection to the person who sold me the property. As long as she's alive, she has no heirs or beneficiaries that I know of. But as long as she needs the income, she's going to get it from me. right? I don't care what happens.
So I missed a step here. So you said the 10 years is up, so they should be done paying the note.
It's a
Why
balloon
all of a
payment.
sudden
Balloon payments too. And they
Oh, a
can't
balloon.
refund.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I was building in an option for something to change.
Oh, okay.
And not that I was gonna force it, but just an option for something to change, another play on it. So if she gives it back to me, I mean, we're still working on that paperwork, then I go back again. Can you just see, but now the fair market value of the property's dropped. It's $100,000.
Why?
Market dropped.
Bakers.
Markets don't always appreciate. Doesn't actually decline. Yeah,
Don't they
seriously.
still have
They
some
don't always
equity?
know that.
Huh?
They have no equity? Their loan
They
amount?
do. They have not a lot of equity at this point. I think their loan amount is like around. They started at 102. I think they might be down to 90. I can't remember. I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. But they're having. This is the reason they liked owner financing in the first place. They're, the debt to income, DTI, debt to income ratios, and all these things. It's a lot of work to try to jump through those hoops. Rents coming in are $900. I'm always figuring 65% expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and other things that come up. So my rent profits would be $585. I still owe $509. I could still make maybe, if I'm lucky, $75 a month. But since I'm long distance, I would give that up for property management or more. Okay, I'm just showing you like a real life deal. So basically, I went from, I put a teeny weeny bit of little cash and I got a property and I turned it into a note. And now it's turning back into a property. And then I'm going to want to turn it back into a note. I don't want to. You see what I'm saying? So this was an example. Does that handle the wrap thing? Do you understand, like the wrap? Is that pretty clear? Because it's a really important concept. Because even just with private money loans that I've done, where I say, look, I think this deal's a go, but I'm not going to bring you in at more than 65 cents, but we need $15,000 more. Will you take, basically, will you take 9, and I'll bring the extra 15,000 in. I'll wrap it at 9.5. It's not big, but it's, even then, my 15,000 is not making 9.5 because of the leverage. I think I'm up to, I don't know, I think it's 15 or 21. I can't remember.
So on a deal like this, are you opening an escrow or you just kind of file under pay?
No, all escrow, because I want title insurance. And I don't, here's the thing, if I get hit by a Mack truck, now this is a real story of a deal I had to turn down 2 weeks ago of a guy who's like, he talks this language. I want to really help homeowners, and here's a guy who had 5 kids. He's a single dad, so I gave him owner financing at a great price. But guess what? He didn't do any of the paperwork through a title company. So he goes, now I want to sell the note. And then we go, there's nothing on public record. The guy doesn't own the property. There's no recorded deed of trust. What the hell did you actually do? He goes, well, I never put them on title till they're done paying. Well, in the meantime, you're being a do-gooder, saying you're all the right things, but now there's liens attached to it. Now no title company's going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Not only can he not sell the note, but that owner that got such the great deal, they get done paying, they're not going to get clear title. Do you think that's nice to anybody? You have, if you don't protect everyone in the deal, it's going to come back to bite you. And the thing is, if one side takes too much of the pie, you are actually shooting yourself in the foot. Bye, Brenda. Bye, Sabrina. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Love you. Right? Because if I go, I can kick somebody out of their home because they haven't paid me in 5 months, am I within my rights to get them out? But if I have another homeless person in my town, what's that going to cost me socially? I don't know how to figure that out, but I bet it's big. By the time we count in, or if I get too good of a deal because some old lady doesn't know, some older person, then that means they don't have enough money to cover their care. So then the taxpayers the burden on the system comes back around. You see, it'll come back around. So if it's not fair, it's not just, oh, I'm a do-gooder and I'm altruistic. There's an actual social cost that's kind of invisible, but I guarantee you it's there.